Early August is a time to really buckle down and figure out what you're going to be doing for the new academic year, planning your courses, getting ready for that new term. And so I've done a series of videos about designing your own college course, and I'll link that below in case you're at that point. But in this video, I want to talk about like 3 questions to ask yourself or to keep in mind before you really define and solidify your plans for the term. Okay, the 3 things to really consider to make sure that you don't bite off more than you can chew when the semester begins. So the first thing to consider is all of your calendars. Okay, so often when we're building the course schedule for our courses, we think about, okay, how it all flows from one week to the next, making sure you scaffold in assessments, like you're doing all of the teaching thinking, but you're not considering your actual calendar, right? So your personal calendar, your work calendar, okay? So for example, maybe in week 5 of the term is when the first unit is due. It's a major assignment, right? You're gonna give a lot of feedback to students to make sure that they have a strong sense going forward of what they need to do for the other projects. Okay, that's a week 5. Great, it makes sense in your course structure. But then, now look at your calendar, right? You look at your calendar, you realize, oh, I have 2 doctor's appointments in that week, and it's gonna be stressful, right? Or I have an academic conference that weekend. I'll be flying out on Wednesday, I'll be there till Sunday, right? So then you start thinking like, okay, week 5 doesn't really work well for this big project considering the things that I have going on personally, academically, right? Whatever the case may be, right? Maybe it's a holiday and you forgot, like, oh, can't do that. It's, Memorial Day weekend, right? So you really want to not just build a course schedule that makes sense from an academic viewpoint, but also from your calendar viewpoint, right? So maybe it's gonna be due week 4 instead, or week 6, right? So you move things around knowing what you have going on in your life, right? And things can come up, of course, but things that you know about, right? Again, holidays, conferences, major deadlines for your research or for your academic writing or for your service, okay? And then personal stuff that comes up. Okay, it can even be like I have 3 birthdays that week, right? So I know I'll be busy. Well, then potentially you want to shift your course structure so it still flows well, it still makes sense, but it also is not going to make your life harder when the semester happens to come, like that time happens to come around. Okay, so consider all of your schedules, right? Not just the schedule of the course. The second one is less is more. Okay, so I know you might be gung-ho and like you're trying all these things and you have all these plans for things you're gonna teach your students and it's gonna be amazing. Less is more, okay? So I started teaching writing courses and I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna know these things going in. They did not know these things going into their freshman year, right? Like I thought they would understand what a thesis statement was, exploratory versus argumentative, right? No, for a lot of them, we're starting from scratch, okay? So I had to build in extra lessons, create supplementary resources because I had to catch them up with my expectation for them, okay? So I assigned 8 books. We hit 6 because that would be best for them to actually learn the concepts that I want to teach them, right? So the goal was more important than actually doing all this on reading, but it would be nice if going in I knew 6 was right, not 8, okay? And so I definitely think if you look at your course, is it all really necessary, right? Can you cut some readings, cut some activities, have extra days for reviewing concepts, right? So that can really help your students succeed because you're not overestimating what can be accomplished in the term, okay? And if you find you cut too much and now you're in a class period and like we're done and it's 40 minutes in and we have 30 more minutes to go, well, you can kind of plan for small activities that happen in case you do have the time for them, but better that than, okay, I have 3 activities planned for this class period and you hit 1.5 by the time 90 minutes rolls around, right? And now you're struggling to tweak going forward because, again, you overestimated. So look at your plan, less is more. And then a similar vein for you, right? Don't recreate the wheel. So if you're going in here, you're like, all right, here are all my plans, here are the activities, here are the assignments, here are the resources I have to create for them. Do you have to create them, right? Can you find versions of these resources online from colleagues, right? Open educational resources. And before you create, see if you can spend some time researching and make it more efficient that way. I can use this website for this purpose. I can use this resource that I found in OER. My colleague has also taught this novel. I'm going to ask her, hey, do you mind if I use your PowerPoint, right? And then in that sense, you're making obviously less work for yourself, and so you can really focus on what's important, right? When you're lesson planning, when you're teaching. So these 3 things are things to really consider before the semester begins. I have other things to consider before the term begins, and I'll link that video below, but I would recommend you start here. Kind of a bonus tip is if you have a group project, plan that really well, right? Because group projects can be a struggle for a lot of students. Some students, don't carry their weight, and other students get frustrated. You get a perfectionist versus the one who's like, a B's good, right? So it can be a struggle. And part of the point of group projects is you have to gain the skills of working with a group. I understand that. But personally, when I design group projects, I tend to have a portion of it that the grade comes from the group element, and then a portion of it that comes from the individual work of the student. So maybe you want to design it that way as well. I'll again link below the group project that I design and how that works. I also have a resource that has multiple assignments that you can feel free to use if you want to assign them to your students. So I'll link that too. But I just want to give you a bit of advice if you're new to teaching and your first semester is soon to start. So I hope that was helpful. If you did, click like, let me know. Comment with your own thoughts if you have your own tips. And subscribe if you don't want to miss out on future content. I have tons of videos already though, so go ahead and explore them as well, and have a great new term.